Welcome, everybody. This is Dr. Zoo, Thursday afternoon, 7th of May, 2026. We are live and live indeed. Fantastic to get everybody on board, and a welcome to all our new Zucoinians. Getting a lot coming through and seeing that in the emails, as we indicated to support@zutopia.com. Now, words of wisdom by the great collected settler. And they're spot on. And let's just have a little reflection on those words from the great Nelson Mandela. Unbelievable. He says, quote, "It always seems impossible until it gets done." How good's that? What a legend he was, hey? 27 years in prison, comes out, becomes president of the great South Africa. It's a great country. I haven't been there myself, but I'm sure people will no doubt at some stage in their lives go to South Africa. Well, here we are. Now, magnificent newcomer. Hopefully today someone finds the green button. Well, we need that person to find it is the CFO, project manager of Zutopia, Mr. Riley Redford. And guess what, people? He'll press it when he's good and ready, he told me this morning. We may own the business. I may be the founder. May have put $50 million into the business. But it's wonderful when we don't have yes men around us that tell the founder and person in charge where to go when he's good and ready. So I would like to say to you people, I don't think he's good and ready today, and I don't think he's good and ready tomorrow. It's going to be some stage I'm hedging my bets on next week. We have to wait, a bit like Nelson Mandela there, until it gets done. He's pumping through the numbers. The numbers look sensational. There's just still some bits and pieces that I understand to do with this little connection with Apple's way it likes or doesn't like PWAs with this signature verification between a wallet and the Zutopia app. So Riley did get a significant number of emails. And in fact, what was good about them, our new AI support desk and persons that are running that quite nicely break it all down into all the bits and pieces as to what the queries are. And let me just have a little squiz here. There's only 6 tickets open, 4 tickets open. And the biggest chunk, which is awesome in this regard, is just the 2 areas really. And the first is KYC verification process with the locking in the Zutopia app. And the second is when's the green button been pressed? And that's with Riley. I'm looking at some of these things here. In fact, I had quite a few people pop in to our office, which is located at 411 Kiewa Street. So we are real. You can actually see what's happening on the in the internet, that the businesses are actively here, and people just wander in, and they were having trouble with those connections as well. So that's the main priority. So just sit tight, people. I think I can't wait, because I'm as keen as everybody else to get stuck into the next phase, which is where we released my vision last episode, or article 31. So now, as we always do, we try and quickly tick off some of these chat things that come through here. And that way, people who have good or bad, or they want to share their inner sanctum, and as a result of that, they put up these comments. Now, Grateful Stranger, it's got here, I didn't realise that you put in 50 million of your own money. Well, let's make it clear. Dr. Zoo, or his other name, Alan, personally doesn't own or collect or have any money. That's because he's involved in a $4.3 billion damages claim against the Commonwealth, which is rearing its ugly head the next few months in the High Court. And Dr. Zoo doesn't like to get burnt twice in one lifetime. But what I can say is that entities that have produced and minted and sold some coins in the past, as you're well aware, plus assets that have gone into the business, plus all the other things that come from tax-free money from horse racing, which is north of 8 or 9 million, plus private funding from another substantial large supporter, the order of about 13 million. That money ends up in those entities with the trusts, and that becomes private money because people have acquired the digital asset, that's the Zucoin, and that asset means they have no relevance to the business or the expenditures to create the business, you see? So again, when you go and no, you're wrong, excited specimen. It's not. It was the trust's monies. It's not money that relates to participants in terms of coins that you've done anything because you've received the value of the asset, high risk or otherwise. And let me just remind you, when you go to Dan Murphy's and you buy a bottle of Grange, that is an asset. And if you pay $1,200 for that asset, that's what you have received is the bottle of Grange. Now, it may go up in price or down, or you may drink it, but that is where it starts and finishes as your participation in the winery business that produced the wine. You have nothing to do with the winery. You have nothing to do with the employee wages, superannuation, tax liabilities, legal fees that are at 5 million plus, compliance in 160 countries, pulling it all together, making the chain and split chain work to open source that we're doing. And you have absolutely nothing to do with the business because it's the way the crypto space works with a digital asset. All right. So we make that perfectly clear. The biggest loser of the projects is the one that's got to stump up the big dollars and doesn't get a digital asset in return. In fact, there's a reduction of that digital asset. Does that make sense? So, and Engaged Legend, just so that we're sticking with you because you're coming up with some really good chat stuff, like a bit of a facetious thing there that says we'll be going live in August. Well, we've come this far and we are live. Zutopia is live. It is onboarding more and more people live. And that live environment is what we want to deliver in April. And now, because you don't care about your fellow Zuconians or new people coming on board or a couple of the old ladies that popped into Kaz's office, Zucoin's office this week because they were frustrated and concerned and worried about the Zutopia connectivity to Zucoins, because you don't care. You're not interested. You're just interested in the quick short-term buck, which means you have not been focusing on the long-term vision, your Zoo vision. That's why we put that out. It's more than just worrying about your short-term fetish for speculation like all the other cryptos, which is how we distinguish ourselves. That's why you can reread on the website, zucoins.com, Article 31, and there it is. And that also is in conjunction with Article 30, which gives you some unbelievable background stuff as to the overall technology and processes and what's involved. So that's quite significant. But if Engaged Legend wants to do his own thing and spend his own 50 million, then I'm sure that you could build your own platform, go through all the hoops, and come back to Dr. Zoo, and we'll trade on your platform in August. Highly a matter for you. That's the beautiful thing of decentralized crypto in this space. But good news is the emails that are coming in are all focused now, which is unbelievably fantastic, when we press the green button as part of the live operations of certainly the Zutopia app. In the past, it was a case of, well, it would never happen. Now it's happening. Now we're getting excited. That's what all the emails are about. So, Engage Legend. My only advice is certainly duck out there, go back to your computer, do an email, send it to support@zutopia.com, and you share your angst and your troubled mind as to the urgency of what you want with the green button this afternoon, and I'll back you. If you can get Riley to listen to you because you want to go early for the sake of it, then knock yourself out. Knock yourself out, because Dr. Zoo would back you just to see what Riley's reaction is in this world of people working long hours to keep Engaged Legend happy. So I hope that's the point on that one. Joyful Buddy, the vicious cycle of Alan hinting to go live and then never does. Well, we are live. Not sure which part isn't live. Firstly, been live on the Zucoin wallet and split chain for 4 years. So you can trade and build and create whatever you like with that digital assets on the platform. And you can build that around your own social media and your own marketing. And you can create your own bullet board or posts or whatever you like, because that's been live. So there's not a vicious cycle there. The coins, Zucoins, are real. They've been minted. They've been distributed. They provide the security and the systems in place that gives it the best crypto product in the world, unlike all the other losses, etc., that we have talked about and that are causing problems in the crypto space. So, Joyful Buddy, that's live. That is live. What you're talking about now is that you want to trade and you want the green button on. And guess what? You're not Tonto. We need it up in a way as soon as possible, subject to the boxes being ticked by the people, and you give them the chance to sort that out, which is doing it properly. And that's what we're doing. If you're not happy, the best advice that we can do is, in the short term, how about you throw your phone away, throw it in the river, and then try and go and find it later on and come back to us when you're ready. No dramas, but we love that stuff. Alan, well, where did they get their money from? Well, we don't know where people get their money from. People buy an asset, and then other people who have received proceeds from that asset sale use that money and see what they can do with it. Now, if you have a garage sale and you put a big sign out the front of your house garage sale, and there's some trinkets from Nana, and there's a couple of tables, a chairs, a couch, and all the rest of it, and you buy that asset, do you think that you believe you have the right to go back to the house and have dinner with the parents the following night, or run the household as to what they're doing in that particular house because you've bought the lounge? That's called asset acquisition. On the other hand, now this is important because this is part of ZuVision. If the fractionalization of Zoo tokens are used fully compliant, of course, with the AFSL licensing, AUSTRAC, etc., and they take over companies, then you have an interesting scenario because shares do give you the right to participate in the business of the company. So if you're running, let's say, a little gold mine and the company is drilling and, doing all those wonderful things, then, of course, you have a right in terms of what the business, and you can put your hand up and say, hey, that money I put into shares, that built that business. Woo. But if you go and buy the gold nugget and you put the nugget in your pocket and you walk away, the nugget is your responsibility and the asset you've bought. There's nothing you have of any right, title, interest, or otherwise in the business of digging the nugget up. So there you go. That's how the world of finance works. So you may think that Dr. Zoo is not talking or understanding the question or what you're on about, but remember, Dr. Zoo, pre-government case, did some incredible mergers and acquisitions and takeovers in the late 80s. Petros Oil and Gas was one of them. And Dr. Zoo fully understands the concepts of asset acquisition, company acquisition, ownership, and how that works with the right to... We used to call it, funnily enough, in the days of the old companies and shares, the whinge barometer. You'd have a whinge barometer. No matter what you did, you weren't drilling the holes quick enough. You weren't digging the gold up quick enough. You didn't worry about the monsoon that went through and flooded the mine and the weight of the water that took you another 6 or 7 weeks to pump it out. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about those incidental things. They didn't care about the shortage of fuel or the tractor wheels didn't arrive in time for the diesel trucks and things. It's a crazy world when you think about it. So, yeah, it's funny. But anyway, now, Joyful Buddy, that's a good one too. I like that one. You create the angst. So somebody forced at gunpoint Joyful Buddy to buy Zucoins. So we got to start at the beginning and work out how the angst happens, because Dr. Zoo is all about the Zoo vision. That's the long-term picture. And again, once he gets his G800 Gulfstream, then Joyful Buddy, I'm pretty sure, won't have any angst because Joyful Buddy will be joyful. So nobody forced a single person into buying either Zucoins or any other digital asset for that matter. Right? That's the beautiful thing of free will. However, as part of that comes the dream, the vision, where it's going, what it could end up as. Now, that is what takes time and has been ticking the boxes all along, because the other type of people we get are those that are grateful that we've spent time, for example, on the two-factor authentication, the only crypto in the world that confirms signature verification off the split chain between sender and receiver. And that creates a protection mechanism because, you know what? Humans lose things. And they lose things and then have the angst to blame others of what they've just lost. So that's the issue. Now this is a better one. Timid habitant. Yes, you've got a group of people with iPhones from iPhone 10 to 15, no problems. So what iPhones do these people have? You'd be amazed actually. We've got a neurosurgeon, very high intellectual individual, been a long family friend with a significant number of coins purchased, and he was getting a bit upset because his iPhone 6 that he loves dearly wasn't working. So that's one example. We're not here to explain the multitudes of phones and issues that we have, because even if you've got an iPhone 10 or an iPhone 15 or an iPhone 12, for example, that doesn't mean that the owner, as a result of that particular iPhone model, has kept up with all the upgrades, because now we've had other people that wondered what the hell is the iPhone upgrade 26.3.1. In fact, it's probably gone a bit above that now. Let's just have a squiz, because we try and encourage people to turn their phones on to the point of getting the upgrades and making sure that they're fully upgraded as to what Apple demands. So let me just see here. There's a little example about, here we go. Now, the update that Dr. Zoo has is, here we go, drum roll, 26.4.2. And guess what? It's saying that that's not the latest update. It needs another one. There's another software. No, wait a minute. Back it up. It says iOS is up to date. So 26.4.2. So when you make a generalization and you say, oh, he's got an iPhone 15, that means absolutely zip. Because then some people, in addition to that, who didn't do the upgrades, decide that they're very clever and they might be running their iPhone with a different browser. So they tend to use something like Chrome, or there's other geniuses out there that are using Brave. And then there's other ones that have got Safari. And all of those become little tweaks that we analyze, we note, we put automation in to overcome some of those problems, because we call it the dumbing down, because people have a inherent tendency to be angstful, like Joyful Buddy. We have angstful people, but without those sort of people, that's what makes the world work. We talk about it. I've talked about it before. It's Newton's third law. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So every negative, you get a positive. And that's what we embrace. Dr. Zoo loves, and this is part of the reason, it loves negative, by the way. So that's why Dr. Zoo was banned on social media, because you get people that want to hide behind anonymous trolling, they get worked up and make up stories. They don't want to read what's been officially posted or done, and they get upset when you bring them down. Anyway, it's a bit like the reason why Dr. Zoo was off the other one, because he had that little story there about Albo being a Hamas bum licker. In fact, he's got a few more bums to lick this afternoon when the ISIS brides have come in. Amazing. There we go. So that's for another day. So let's cheap chicken through here, because it tends to answer a lot of the questions, which is fantastic. The trading part is not live. I think we've said that. That's quite front and center. If you want to get more inside news, then by all means, send to Riley and he'll share with you his wisdoms as to what he's doing. And you can question, his role in life, or the other, things that Robert's been doing as well. You could question, because they're making you potentially very rich people. So it's a very fine, tough line to be treading. And look, Dr. Zoo is as keen as anybody, let me tell you. That you've got to go away this weekend, probably head off up north next month, and the Gulf Stream is not on the tarmac, which is sad. But what I am getting a sense of, though, people, which is fantastic, is that we've gone from that'll never work, Zutopia. All the others are going down the toilet and doing all sorts of crazy things, and the hackers in North Korea are having a great time. But we are now actually seeing the pendulum swing far greater towards I desperately want to trade, which is fantastic. And even though I thought, I don't know, probably a month ago, Dr. Zoo was thinking there might be a weight of more silly sellers because people want to be selling at those prices, and nothing we can do about that as we keep ploughing through the Zoo vision. So have a read of Article 31. It's on the website for those that have just joined, zucoins.com. But even that scenario the pendulum's gone the other way, everybody, because I'm getting, as we are on support desk, this desperation, this tone that I need to trade today, yesterday, tomorrow. And that momentum is fantastic. It's actually something we didn't plan or count on, because we're working on the tech side to get it right for the big volumes that we want, which is in the Zoo vision. Won't go over that again. Plenty of information on what we're doing long term to get this thing accelerated as quick as possible in terms of those returns. But even with that, we are gobsmacked of people desperate to trade, which is fantastic. We hadn't counted on that, but that's going to create a very interesting scenario that when that green button is done, pressed, the weight of buying could actually, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but the weight of buying based on the desperation of people that want to trade, we've got a few of them in the list here now, like Jolly Champion. Jolly Champion's jumped in. No, you're not live. Nobody can buy a coin. That is exactly the commentary, what I'm talking about. Desperation, that at all costs, don't worry about people successfully getting on. Let's just look after moi, because moi wants to trade urgently and moi wants to make a killing, but you need more moi and moi on board if you're going to make this work right in the longer term. So yes, we are live. We are live. You can go in, follow the instructions that we'd said, get the other people to the same level of speed as you guys. If you're successfully on, you've successfully got your Zucoin, your Zutopia wallets, your KYC, Stripe are very impressed, because you've got to remember, we don't just sit there and say, oh, look, moi has succeeded in his KYC. That looks good. There's a lot of work and investigation that goes on behind the scenes now in relation to this KYC requirements that gives that tick, which ultimately means that Riley presses the green button and moi, can get out there and trade the second phase of what will stay on and has stayed on live, which is the Zutopia app. So, I guess the next one there is BS. Now, I think we know what that says. Jolly Champion is keen, but if you saw the app in its totality, it was in a maintenance mode. We know that the app works, but not to the efficiencies of what we've now got, because it was running for 9 months and it had 3 odd million coins change hands, millions of dollars, thousands of transactions, and that was part and parcel as to why that was a soft launch. And people didn't want a soft launch because they said we're live. Well, we were live with a soft launch, and now we are actually live. And there's one function within the live app, which is clearly not under maintenance. In fact, let's talk about live for a minute, because if you guys might have had an account with a little exchange that promotes itself as being off exchange transfer, when in fact it's quite rightly running escrow accounts, but a little one called lbait.com, and it's a crypto exchange platform, and they talk about being live, and they've had a few security issues recently, and we'll just check in case Dr. Zoo is not conveying the correct message. But if you go to their site the last 6 weeks and you press the button that says contact support, that is the LBait support, just using this as an example, by the way, people, when you press that, you don't go to support, you go to a message that says, I'm looking at it right now, we are doing some maintenance. We'll be back soon. So that was 6 weeks ago. That was up. That's just for the support. Now, any of you out there in Zucoin world, you can send your Zutopia queries to support@zutopia.com. And even if it takes a bit of time, but certainly it will be addressed and you will be answered. And all the issues that come through get logged, analysed, and improved within the tech to make it easier for the next onboarders, which is what we're doing. That's why Briley has not turned the button on yet. For the trading, that's the only off button, which we disclosed clearly when we launched live on the 24th of April, 2026. Perfect. Now, if you want to log in to LBait, press the login button, which Dr. Zoo's just done, and it says we are doing some maintenance. So that is what is not a live app. What you have on the table is a Zutopia live app that the key is about bringing across the Zucoin connectivity, which is the only one in the world that uses the signature cryptographic testing to the split chain, and meeting the ability to create the live listings, the ability for meeting the live connectivities on KYC with Stripe, both as buyer and seller. And then, as we've indicated, we just wait for the patiently for the green button to be turned on. That's the only non-on bit. So, hope that made all sense. But the good news is, Engaged Legend, he's obviously stressed. He's so worked up. He wants to get out there and trade, which is exciting. So we take that on a magnificent positive, because Engaged Legend wants to be engaged. He wants to get out there and push hard to buy, and look after himself. That's moi. So engaged moi is, keen. absolutely, the commentary clearly shows what a level of excitement that Engaged Legend wishes to be engaged with. Cannot wait for the trading, pumped and excited, loves Zutopia, and loves to see the ability of how he hasn't done his dough with other exchanges or other crypto. Plenty of examples of that. We've seen that in recently again, but there you go. So stay with it, Engaged Legend. We love you. We love to see your enthusiasm, your build up, your angst. This is what it's all about. Now, let's have a look. Now, Engaged Legend is having a field day today. Let's see. He's making some very good contributions for our knowledge base. Now, he's referred to a Nokia 3210, the 3210 model, and it says that would be as useful as these coins at the moment. Well, that wasn't a bad brand, Nokia. Don't get me wrong. In fact, it's probably a collector's item, and the technology that went into the Nokia was second to none. And without that sort of core base of knowledge and technology, Engaged Legend, I'm afraid to say, you'd be lucky to be even on a chat link like this one that gives you the opportunity to express your inner feelings and all of the things that you want to share with worrying about digital assets as to the usefulness of otherwise. But if you look at the Zoo Vision and recap about what Zucoins, split chain, stable coins for that matter, Stripe, Combo, Zucas, tokenization will deliver, then what I'd say, there are no coins that are useful, because that's what the article says. So you're quite right, Engaged Legend, for highlighting that coins are useless. All meme coins, NFTs, Bitcoin. Well, that's a classic Engaged Legend speculative bubble that's out there that's trading because of speculation and punting and all the rest of it. Ethereum, Solana, creating useless things of nothingness. If you go back to Article 31, Engaged Legend, the future is in your hands, because that's where we're at, that the pressing of the green button is really just one means to an end, and that's to give wealth gratification to the strength that we've had in the early adopters, who never forced Engaged Legend to buy anything. He obviously, or she, made your own decision in relation to buying the digital asset. But Zucoins and Zutokens will take you through to another level of productivity that we've been banging on about for a long time, that can now happen because we haven't listened to Engaged Legend, of the quickness of which he wants to get over the line, rather than building a solid foundation to start with. The old story. You build on quicksand and see how it goes. We're building on rocks and rocks and more rocks. And the foundation stones are unbelievable. So there you go. Now, we've got a serious one here to talk to. Interestingly, Talkative Guru. That's a top anonymous name. That's fantastic. Anyway, I shall read it out for those that are listening. Talkative Guru says, I find it hard to fathom why onboarding is an issue, because if this coin is successful, people will be onboarding by thousands in the future. Now that pretty well wraps it up, because what you do, you can have the greatest successful coin, product, whatever it is, in the world. And with that and the success of it, means nothing if it can't get into the hands of the millions. We're not talking about onboarding thousands. We've already got thousands. We've got 11,500 Zucoin wallet holders, and we still have problems. Not as many on Zucoin wallet, by the way. It's pretty well minimal there. It's mainly people, for their own fault, who don't follow instructions to back up. You either back it up your phone, either put it in files to a USB, either get it onto your computer, back it up on a hard drive, or even send it to iCloud. So those issues have gone, because that does allow, or we wouldn't even be doing this, if we couldn't be comfortable of getting long-term millions of people, then you could forget it. You may as well drink that red wine, because that is the reverse thinking that's needed to put in play if you want to get the success of the product into the hands of millions. You've got to have a very good onboarding, frictionless experience. And it's not, look, you might be clever. You're a very clever bunch, some of you, and you get it. And then on the other side, we've got a neurosurgeon that could probably dissect and take the brain of engaged legend and learn some extraordinary things, who is still working with an iPhone 6 and then wondering why there's difficulties in connecting to Zutopia. So it's all relative. And I think, look, at this point, let's just go back as to why and how the entire structure that you see in the Zoo vision is really built around one of the great heroes we talk about, in that of Steve Jobs. So just have a little squiz and listen to this before we go back into some of the excitement of these commentaries. It's very interesting, because some people must have missed this from last week. Here we go.
Yes.
Mr. Jobs, you're a bright and influential man.
Here it comes.
It's sad and clear that on several counts you've discussed, you don't know what you're talking about. I would like, for example, for you to express in clear terms how, say, Java, in any of its incarnations, addresses the ideas embodied in OpenDoc. And when you're finished with that, perhaps you could tell us what you personally have been doing for the last 7 years.
You can please some of the people some of the time. But one of the hardest things when you're trying to affect change is that people like this gentleman are right in some areas. I'm sure that there are some things OpenDoc does, probably even more that I'm not familiar with, that nothing else out there does. And I'm sure that you can make some demos, maybe a small commercial app that demonstrates those things. The hardest thing is, how does that fit in to a cohesive, larger vision that's going to allow you to sell $8 billion, $10 billion of product a year? And one of the things I've always found is you've got to start with the customer experience and work backwards to the technology. You can't start with the technology and try to figure out where you're going to try to sell it. And I've made this mistake probably more than anybody else in this room. And I've got the scar tissue to prove it. And I know that it's the case. And as we have tried to come up with a strategy and a vision for Apple, it started with what incredible benefits can we give to the customer? Where can we take the customer? Not starting with, let's sit down with the engineers and figure out what awesome technology we have, and then how are we going to market that. And I think that's the right path to take.
There we go, people. That says it all. What we have with the enthusiasm, both negative and positive today, is that those that know what they're doing, that have succeeded with the Zucoin, Steve Jobs philosophy of customer, you people that only want the green button to be turned on for trading have succeeded. We can successfully say we've achieved our goal because there's not a single commentary in the chat group at all of anybody saying in this group of 68 or 100 people, whatever it is, are asking the question, how is it that I can't connect my Zucoin wallet to the Zutopia wallet and I've lost all my coins because it's not showing up in the Zucoin wallet? Why is that? Because the intelligence level of those that are taking the time, for good or bad, to listen, observe, focus in, and show this excitement of wanting the button pressed proves exactly what Steve Jobs was on about. But let me say this, we need 10 million more of you if this is going to go through the roof. Dr. Zoo is not busting his chops to sit there and spend $50 million plus. He could buy more racehorses with that than worry every day that the consumers want a deliverable product for easy onboarding that no crypto has ever achieved. And we've achieved that with the Zucoin wallet. We've achieved that with the onboarding of Zutopia using Android. We have achieved an extraordinary protection mechanism of trading these things without risks to Dr. Zoo's superannuation fund, because nobody had solved the issues of reversals and chargebacks when you buy and sell crypto. The big players don't like it. They take that risk. Now, without even going this far, but if the narrow issue, which is building, and Riley, he might wake up on the weekend and be happy on Sunday night. Might be Monday, might be next Thursday. It's coming close. Not today. He's not happy. Right? That's it. Live with it. That's how it is. Because the mandate is the Steve Jobs of millions of customers that'll generate the billions of turnover. That means that there is massive productivity, not just now, but as per the Zoo vision of tokenization that leads to some extraordinary products that will be built and created, and also converging together with AI. Because there's going to be a lot of people out of a job. It's going to be over. We've worked through this and the knowledge base of that, and people are facing retrenchment all the time because they're not listening. Now, the technology is mind-blowing. That is what split chain, as a result of solving the Bitcoin blockchain problems. We wouldn't even be talking about turning on a green button if that couldn't scale up and take on board 100 million new people. Think about it. Just think for a minute, for God's sake. The green button, we get it. We know it. We want it. You're excited. Dr. Zoo's excited. He can't wait to see it turned on. Now, just think about the current blockchain problems, because Bitcoin can do 7 transactions per second. Now, if you've got 10 million people trading simultaneously using the Zucoin, split chain, Zucaz, ZuVision at once, do you think they're going to stand there and wait for the first 7 people to complete a transaction into the block? Is that mathematically feasible? That's why there is a vision. That's why a person like Steve Jobs changed many, many things, many functions that we take for granted. In fact, it's a shame he's dead, because he would have solved Apple's problem of copy and paste. I mean, who would have thought that Dr. Zhu has to do a degree in how to work an Apple copy and paste process, because they want to run all the fees through their iStore. They want 30% clip of everything. Now, we've got people concerned about getting charged $5 from Stripe on the first of the month to do all their trading for $5 for KYC. $5. I mean, if you're going to make $10,000 a coin and you're whinging about a $5 compliance fee, you need to get out of it. Find something else to do. Sit under a rock. That's life. Stripe don't run a global processing business for charity. You live with it. Now, they've come up with this solution that said they want to make sure that whoever's trading is not someone different 30 days later, right? So trade in the first month, pay the $5, meet your compliance, and then sell the bloody lot, get out of there, and never trade again because you're worried about next month's $5 fee. It's an absurdity. I mean, most people, $5, you can't buy a coffee, and yet you want to trade high value proposition of a system that can cope with onboarding 10 million plus people, not trading at 7 people per second. Think about it, 7 transactions per second. Now, Visa and MasterCard, because of the size of their network and servers and centralization, they're saying they're running somewhere between 4,700 and 10 to 15,000 transactions per second. Through our testing, which is easy to do to generate the type of bots that are needed to test, we can't get any spare change out of 100,000 transactions per second. Why? Because we want the consumers not to whinge or lose a trade because they are so slow they can't process the transaction. Because you're talking 24 hours, 7 days, full throttle in all sorts of countries around the world. That's why I keep coming back to this reverse engineering. Now, someone's posted here as a little chat, which is fine, that they've got an iPhone 4. An iPhone 4. Oh, wait a minute, let me just check whether that was correct. Let me go. Let me have a. I want to make sure that that was correct. Here it is. Quirky humanoid. Hi, Alan. I have an iPhone 4 and don't have a problem. Now, I don't know about you, but I would like Quirky Humanoid to send an email to support@zutopia.com and prove to my IT team that an iPhone 4 is even technically possible to run, because you might have some alien form of a phone that allows that to run, because it's not supported by Apple. Now, happy to be corrected, and maybe you have a division within Apple of 1,000 or 2,000 people that sit there all day and work with a collection of people, God knows who's got it, an iPhone 4. Because on Apple's own site, once you start crawling past or less than an iPhone 10, support cuts out. So your phone, with great respect, and I'm happy to be corrected, would be the worst scamming phone on planet Earth, because it would have zero security support from Apple. Now, it's all right to say these things, but if you're going to do that, then produce, and I would be very keen to have a look at how you've gone around Apple's non-support program. We would be very keen. The team, both in terms of Flux, and I'm sure my CTO, Robert Novak, would be delighted to review the way your phone is operating. It'd be staggering. But don't get us wrong. We are happy to say sorry. We are sorry we underestimated or undervalued your contribution to convince us that this thing's working with an iPhone 4. Because even then, there's no way you will be getting upgrades to 26.4.2. But if you are, you are changing the world. So that's the sort of commentary that then you've led into what is the real problem. The real problem is consumers. So it's not about, you've been told the truth. You're not telling us the truth. The truth has been produced on articles through Dr. Zoo, who you're listening to now, unless I'm AI. That's another possibility. But put that to one side. The truth is there. It's out there. You're turning a blind eye because of some quirky angst thing going on and trying to convince the listeners or promote through the chat, which is about getting proper feedback, that for some reason your iPhone 4 is the solution to all of the onboarding problems, and then work a way around about the truth. The truth is the green button hasn't been pressed. I mean, it's, as you've said to yourself, you can't handle the truth. That's the truth. When it turns on, you can trade. Do what you like. Knock yourself out. I've told you before. Or if you think that you have far greater prospects of taking advantage of the split chain and the firepower and the things that Satoshi can't do, couldn't do, hasn't done, then go and build your own platform. There's nothing stopping you. Extract the code out of the wallet, fiddle with it, build something and build another wallet, build your own Zutopia. You can create a bulletin board. You can create a listing market. You could do a million things. You could have people buying and selling Zucoins through your new platform, because you'll have a heading that says iPhone 4's accepted. Be unbelievable. Now, I don't need to be a skeptic on it, but look, if you're going to produce stuff, the real facts there in the first place? So that's the reality. It's a reality check. Now, timid buddy, we just want to sell and get our money back. Well, I get that. That's fine. You can sell today. Put an ad in the Sydney Morning Herald. Tell them that you've got the coins there, and away you go. There's all sorts of things you can do to elevate yourselves to what's been happening. Now, the short-term speculation, right? You took the risks. You know the risks. You could have ended up with the HOC2 coin and lost that in 24 hours. 13.4 million coins have vaporized. Gonski. We're here for the long haul. The coins are real, the Zucoins. The platforms are real. The system is extraordinary. You've got the latest hot off the press updates on the back end from Article 30. It's on the website. Go to Zoo AI and you'll see that on zoocoins.com. You can check that against any other platforms in the world. You've got the big picture scenario of what we're looking to get involved with and what we want to do. Dr. Zoo's not doing this just for the sake of, yeah, it's lovely. We can all make some extra money in the pocket, and that's what we're going to see. That's what we're going to see. The monument to success being the Gulfstream G800, that we achieved that. And every time there's some half-assed glass person, we take them out and we show them the Gulfstream. That's the marketing strategy. And they'll say, gee, look at that. When did that happen? Oh, look, that happened because, as the gentleman asked Steve Jobs, what's he been doing for 7 years? I mean, what's he been doing for 7 years? He's been building the greatest empire on the planet with a target to get more than 2 billion phones. So the big takeout from today, people, is that we've created a group of excitable monsters whose single focus is on trading. And I love that. That's what we want. We've moved on. We've moved on from the trolls and the under 20s carrying on as though they know what they're talking about. And we've moved on. So, because we've proven the product, we've proven the legals, we've overcome all those hurdles. We've overcome the doubters that said Zutopia will never work, and here we are. We now have created this extraordinary hype of, I want to trade. Please God, I want to trade. Well, that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing, because we're going to make sure that not only those that know what they're doing can achieve the outcomes in order to trade, but we have other people, potentially in the millions, that aren't as smart as you guys, that need help, that want to get on board, want to participate like everyone else. They want to buy cheap coins. They hope that the early adopters crack. They hope that people get so antsy, that the longest term supporting Zucoin holders actually crack and sell cheap. And they'll come in and they'll gobble them up, and they will be the winners. That's how the whole history of Bitcoin's worked. You know, people had the opportunity of buying at $100. And even today, I mean, even if you said to yourself, oh, I didn't want to buy that asset, or, it's taken 17 years longer than I'd hoped, but I've still got me little Bitcoin. I paid 100. I'm not very happy, but it's at 81,000 $423 US, you know. And these exchanges that create that liquidity and ability to buy or sell, they've come out of nowhere. They've come out of the think tanks of young people that said, look, we need to create a market in order to have that trading. There's nothing extraordinary about Binance. I mean, the CEO went to jail. He's out and about. He's worth about 90 billion and he's turning over 12 billion a day. Why? Because generally people have got nowhere else to go and they're caught up in all of this horrific market manipulation, pump and dumps schemes. And that's when you have a real right to whinge, people. When you get caught up in that, that's exactly why that with Dr. Zoo taking the road that we have is because Dr. Zoo didn't want to lose his own leftover hard-earned coins or the $50-odd million that no one else out there has spent. That'll only come back through the high price of Zucoins and through the productivity that can be built and generated through Zoo tokens. And that is the real long-term opportunity. The more fractionalization, the more Zucoins are taken out of the market. You can see that circular movement with merchants and consumers. The more that happens, the higher the price can only go according to the quantity theory of money. And I think we had one of 11,000 Zucoin adopters. We had only one person, to our knowledge, that's actually tested that formula against the scalability and marketability to the millions of people as to what that would equate to in pricing terms. And let me tell you, it's far greater than $1,000 US a Zucoin. But we only had one person, and I'm happy to be corrected if anyone else comes in, that's used that formula, which has been tried and tested for money theory for 100 and something years. And that theory, which is simply based on one aspect, basically, and that is you create demand through adoption, which is exactly what Steve Jobs has been on about. And he didn't take notice of characters whinging and carrying on about the fact that, you know, if anybody has a look, it took 20 years before the stock price of Apple moved out of a flat line of worthlessness into its stratosphere of pricing, and we see today as a $3 or $4 trillion company. That is true patience. That is true, absolute commitment to the long-term vision, not this run around in the short-term speculative bubble. You know, I need to buy a new lounge chair. Not that stuff. We're talking about absolute way in which you go about it in terms of the belief in that long term. Now, confident, we have confident, grateful stranger. He's joined the chime and he said, clearly, these podcasts are a waste of time, getting no answer. Well, grateful stranger, you know the response from Dr. Zoo. Turn it off. Find another podcast. We can play you some music if you like. We can get your grandmother to sing to you or read from a book. Get that fluffy pillow out at night. In fact, it looks like that there could be a whole range of books that you might enjoy better than podcasts. So we're not here to waste time. We're not here to waste your time. And the way we solve that is you turn it off. It's very simple. like coins. Nobody forces anybody to buy anything. They don't force anybody to sell. It's a free global market. And you have the picture in front of you of how we see that with the Zoo Vision, which is on the table. And that's the direction that Dr. Zoo himself wants to get involved with, which leads to more excitement and things like the productivity that can be used from tokenization with taking over public companies, mergers, acquisitions, real world assets, real estate, even artworks. Of course, there is the various goods and services from merchants. There is the billions, $500 billion market that can be tackled with getting rid of centralized advertising from the powerhouses like Google and Meta and Instagram and so on. So, yeah, look, nobody forces anybody to anything. Now, we've got another little one here. We'll try and get through it a bit. Confident character. Why not do one podcast every fortnight or month for updates? That way, people can keep their powder dry. Seems like everyone is getting frustrated listening to too many podcasts. Well, the podcasts are on, and we've got a sequencing of events that says Monday and Thursday. And let's take today, for example. Today's the 7th. And the answer to that is if you think it's better every fortnight or month, then don't turn it on over the next, 23 days and come back and listen to Dr. Zoo on or about the 7th of June. So technically, that's not an issue. That's one of the great aspects of putting it out, because eventually, and hopefully it's not far away, as soon as the green button is turned on and trading starts, it's Dr. Zoo's clear and unequivocal intention not to waste his time talking about updates, but talking about the Zoo Vision and the rollout of what's happening that really attacks the things and excitement of what the whole ecosystem can do, not feeding information which is truthful and on the money. And sometimes, it's the truth can be very painful. And, as soon as that, for example, the green button, that means that Dr. Zoo can move on to better things to talk about, because he doesn't need to talk about the frustration of some of the early adopters worrying about trading. Don't get me wrong, trading's good. And I'm super impressed that, absolutely super impressed that the negatives, unbeknown to them on the chat, are actually our greatest strength, because the tone of angst shows how desperate people are that want to see trading, whereas that's never happened before. So the more traders, the more demand. We're back to the quantity theory of money, which means we get a lot more action globally and excitement because we do the hard work. My team is doing the hard work. When this Dr. Zoo closes the next few minutes, the team is still working. You guys can go down to the road and have that little gin and tonic, maybe a bit of scotch on the rocks, wind down, play with the kids, enjoy life, go and watch the footy, whatever. Just remember, the team is working at no cost to you through the night. I think last night, Dr. Zoo closed down operations about 4 a.m. Not that he wants a ticket for it, just letting you know that there's still a lot of legal works and things happening behind the scenes to make sure that we can be well positioned in 160 countries around the world, because you guys don't have to worry about global KYC and AML and all those U-Butte things, how it's going to work. So there you go. Now, and Talkative Guru, actually, you're spot on. Twice a week is fine, but the facts could be compounded in 10 minutes. I can assure you, and you've got the repeats here, that the single most important fact today, in today's show alone, based on the information we have through emails, through support@zutopia.com, I probably could have compressed today's show into a minute. Like, hello, Dr. Zoo here. Green button won't be turned on today. It's in the hands of Riley. The onboarding is our biggest thing we're working through, and we'll have an update next week. Bye-bye. Now, we can do that. We may have a separate midnight news flash type burst. So if people are up and about, midnight might be the go, and we do a 1 minute Dr. Zoo flash burst, and people can listen to that and not listen to everything else. Because if you go back through the history of Dr. Zoo, there's some very, very important historical records of information that have been ticking boxes and coming true through the whole journey. Now, I know we're focused on making money, which is important, but it's bigger than that. This is a total globalization of sovereign rights that you may not give a rat's ass about now, but you and your kids at some stage in the future will, because you may very well end up with more frozen accounts, lack of ability to access assets, etc., or just sitting there having that scotch as a drone collapses into your building in Dubai, of which your tax planning goes down the toilet. So let's just keep working on that. Now, Calm Settler. Now, that's a good one. I have sold coins to a few friends, but are embarrassed to tell them about the podcast. Well, don't tell them. You know, we don't pander ourselves to an environment that goes too far to the left for the sake of it, and worry about all of our feelings. The reality is this is a project of a scale that's taking on the giants, has succeeded with the core, the engine, has put Satoshi back in his hole, embarrassed Bitcoin blockchain. There's a mountain of information in that regard and where we're heading that no other crypto can achieve or even come with it within a bull's roar. So don't be embarrassed. Some people are embarrassed to say they're Christians. You're in result. If you're going to heaven and you're going through the pearly gates and some rabbit that, you're embarrassed to tell ends up in hell, good luck to them. Just be out there, be forthright, away you go. Years ago, people used to carry on about Dr. Zoo being a bankrupt. I mean, for God's sake, that's about that. The biggest mistake in that instance on bankruptcy, I advise every single Zucoin holder, we put this on the website, protect your assets, trusts, limited partnerships, because there's someone out there lurking that when the coins are through the roof and you got multi-millions, Dr. Zoo can't help you. You need to protect them yourself and don't end up as a bankrupt. Nothing embarrassed about it. I mean, some of the greatest entrepreneurs in all of history were bankrupts. Abraham Lincoln, president, bankrupt. Ulysses S. Grant, president, USA, bankrupt. Henry Ford, bankrupt. H.J. Hines, bankrupt. Walt Disney, Wouldn't even be talking about Netflix. Wouldn't be talking about Disney, bankrupts. So if you believe in something and you put your entire weight on it, you believe in it, which is Dr. Zoo believes in, then don't be embarrassed. That's just a cop-out. That's just a cop-out anyway. Otherwise, get them to ring Dr. Zoo and we'll see what they're like. You know, you can imagine there's been a few people recently that carry on about integrity and all the rest of it, and you start to dig a little bit, and turns out, you know, they'd be the last people on earth talking about, worrying about embarrassment or integrity and all that. So now, let's just look. I'm going to wrap it up here because this thing goes on and on. Let's just pick one out. Oh, well, Quirky Dreamer, getting a bit worked up. I asked this question a few days ago and it never got answered. So I'll ask again. When do you estimate Zucoins will go to 20% of Bitcoin? Well, I've never said a time because we're not giving financial advice. I'm saying that personally, Dr. Zoo believes that Zucoins will go to 20% of Bitcoin. Now, if you'd have asked that same question when in 2010, from memory, that's when Dr. Zoo first, towards the end of 2010, started looking at Bitcoin as a payment solution. That's how long ago this goes, and wanted to find an answer to the problems that couldn't be solved. So that's 2010. Remember, Bitcoin was launched in 2009, January 2009. If you'd have asked the question, when will Bitcoin go to 50,000 US dollars, you'd have been laughed at. So the question is not to build that around it. What I can say is that it is Dr. Zoo's desire that the Gulfstream G800 is parked at the Albury Airport, ready for use early next year, to then start the journey to the bucket list of things that jet will be taking Dr. Zoo on. And remember, one of the great things in May, and it's just recently finished, is things like the Kentucky Derby, and that would be an ideal time, which would be a program, realistically, rolling this stuff forward based on all of the Zoo vision and what we now know we can cope with millions of people, etc., and getting on board. And if you miss out, bad luck, because there's another 4 billion people we can look at. We don't need wombats. We don't need wombats that carry on. There are plenty of other people desperate to get involved and to take it to the next level. And that's exactly why Dr. Zoo made sure that with fractionalisation, that even if the Zucoin price was at $1,000 or 10,000, they can be fractionalised so that people in lesser fortunate jurisdictions like India, South Africa, even large parts of South America, they can buy and save small amounts of Zucoin fractions for the value proposition of $10 or $20 or $30. And if that works in conjunction with stable coins, then it means they are able to create a portfolio that they could not do with those fractional amounts in Bitcoin. It will not happen. So just that's the prospects of the 20%, purely based on the maths. There's 21 million or thereabouts Bitcoin. There's 100 million Zucoins, and we should be 20% of the value. I mean, it'd be ideal if that was the value when the green button's pressed next week. If not, then that's the objective. And Bitcoin cannot compete. As you know, miners rely on mining new Bitcoin. When that comes to a screeching halt and transaction fees go up, there is the Zucoin with transfers of whatever fraction you like at no cost into the network because there are zero fees. So finally, let's wrap it up, people. That's a big one today. Big one today. I haven't even talked about the problems of Coinbase, where 14% of the employees got sacked on the 5th of May, and for reasons. But we'll talk about that on Monday. But it would be better if this podcast had structure. First 10 minutes, Zucoin's update marketing, technical, update on new wallet downloads and Zutopia. No, Dr. Zoo doesn't work on structure. You got to be joking. I mean, the only structure you want to hear is, when is the trading live? That's the only thing of interest, really. And then after that, there'll be more dribble. Why is the price this price? Or why are we making too much money? Why is it $10,000 and I sold at 50 cents? Why? All these whys. So, structure. We have structure in our life. If you want structure, go home. When you get home, there's structure. You get told what to do, bath the kids, clean up the mess, have tea, everything's set by time. Occasionally you might watch the footy. That's structure. You've got plenty of structure. We don't want structure. Satoshi hasn't got structure. He doesn't even know where he is. How good's that? So it's about the generalisation, and it does give the opportunity for people to write their inner deep thinking thought processes of the negatives they have for the day. Eventually, Dr. Zoo would love to structure, he hates structure, but structure relevant topics at a certain time. Like, for example, at 3 o'clock in the morning, there might be the half-hour burst just on how Dr. Zoo is going to get people into heaven, for example. Now, that might be a completely irrelevant podcast, but gives some perspective as to what the hell we're doing on the planet. Because earlier in the day, we worried about the green button turning on the trading. So that sort of thing. But that's the sort of thing we can do. So no dramas at all. This is just your opportunity to feed that in. So leave it with you, people. I think that little note there, press the button, Riley. If you are not happy, he's ready. He's on standby. Not only do you get Riley, you get an extra Riley. It's 2 Rileys. And you can send in, Riley, how you going? Hope you're well. Don't give a rat's ass about your life when you press the button. He'd love it. He'd love it. He's seen all those already, and that's going to be fantastic that we get that feedback all the way through. Right, people, we've come a long way. There's absolute truckload of follow-up here. Sorry, I can't answer all these because we get a couple of the others that jump in early with their problems. And Quirky being, good on you, Quirky. No more podcasts until you're ready to push the green button would be fine. And I can give you the absolute guarantee that I can do that if you turn off the podcast. So turn it off, go bye-bye, and turn it back on whenever you like down the road, and you'll either get the news on the website or the app or whatever, and that's something Dr. Zoo can guarantee to deliver. No more podcasts until we're ready to push the green button. Simply means you turn it off and deal done. Beautiful. All right, people. Now, for those that are interested, Saturday, important. This is the unstructured, out of left field. Let's use Dr. Zoo's millions to keep things bubbling along with all of the bloody legals and compliance and millions of dollars that no one cares about. But Saturday, Rotogilla, Gosford, race 8, boom shakalaka. Same day, Saturday, funnily enough, race 8, Queensland, Gold Coast, Sky Glider, double up, lock and load, put some multis. One's going to head to the Doomden Cup, Group 1. Another's going to head to Stradbroke, Group 1, 13th of June, 23rd of May. Why is that relevant? Because if the 5 or 6 or 7 million that comes in, it'll end up back helping you guys through other big visionary stuff that's in the Zoo vision that Dr. Zoo wants to do. He needs at least 4 million to launch the world's first Zoo token takeover. And there's nothing out of left field here. He's done it before, can do it again. Companies like BHP are vulnerable. $280 billion gutting exercise using tokens. Never done before and can be done. That's where Dr. Zoo gets excited, not worrying about green buttons in the short term. That'll happen. That's a gimme. What he needs is, and the reason you need a few bob, like 4 or 5 million for a takeover of that size, is because the legal fees chew up a lot. And then you've got to have a bit of greenmail money in the back pocket to lock and load with what they call options and all those sort of wonderful things that can accelerate the share prices. More importantly, those contracts and smart contracts, once the company's acquired, end up on guess where? Zutopia. Globalized people. That's why we need to have a system which can cope with hundreds of thousands of transactions per second. Because it's not about the loyal little group that's going to make a killing as early adopters. It's about phase 2. We're into that. Right, people, have a good one. I'll leave on that happy note. I've got, for all those that channeled their inner energy today, thank you very much, good, bad, or otherwise. And let's just finish up with this little note.
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.